This is a pretty little park area. Looks like an antique boat over there. I think this is where the Ayutthaya Historical Study Center is. I think it's that building. If you remember some of the signs yesterday where Bofit is one word, this they do all the time, as well as actually having a second name that they use instead of the other one. This is apparently the Ayutthaya Historical Study Center. Very pretty place. I just hope it is, because I'm getting really tired of walking in the sun. These large lily pads are kind of neat. Look like they're designed to catch and hold water, or fresh water. Some of the pretty flowers. And even some of the wild birds that have found refuge here. Top of the light posts on the main street, going from the center of town towards the big ruins. Another road centerpiece. Here's another Wat Chai Watanaram on the main drag on my way back to the town. Well, the Chedai not long for this earth in this form. And notice trees growing out of there. Since I have myself over in the far southeast corner and I need to get up into the more northeastern corner, I've encountered here, this is a big, basically a freeway that runs off the island that I didn't know was here. So I'm pretty sure I hook around here and that'll bring me right up along the river back to where the markets are, because I wanted to buy something there anyway. So these neat fences that we see around, here's how they're made. Part done with the first painting of the gold portions. This looks like a very old Honda scooter or motorbike. There was a little hummingbird out here, but I couldn't get my camera on it fast enough. My room just looks a little messy because I just got back from a hike and then I read for a while, cleaned and then ate some small cherry tomatoes and pea pods, and then had a great yellow curry dinner downstairs in the restaurant, which I find to be one of the best values, and it's also predictably good and clean. I've also changed my plans a couple times. I was going to take the train after 2 days and go to Sukhothai, where I'd have to make an overnight stop in Pitsulank, but instead I can take a bus from here directly to Sukhothai, so I'm going to do that. Okay, now we are off to do the schedule that I had planned this morning. I make 3 stops in the drive will take me. We negotiated 200 baht for 2 hours, but I said if it goes to 3 hours, I pay him 300 baht. And that is fair because I'm going to, it'll make him 3 stops, 3 runs, and that would normally be 40 each. That's 120, plus another 80, which is a lot in their terms, for the time that I'll spend sitting, walking around while he sits. And then from the last spot, I walk back, so he's fine. Okay, we're over here at 19, which is Wat Chai something or other, and you'll see it right there, Wat Chai Watanaram. Took a while for the guy to get here because he got lost, believe it or not. Hey, this is famous because just 40 years ago it was immersed, believe it or not, in jungle. Today it's one of the most photographed because of this Chedai in the background that we'll see more of when we don't have the sun looking straight into us, into me. It was built by King Pasatong to honor his mother, and that's it. I'm kind of at the perimeter right now, and I'm going to pan around. Imagine these all white, as I believe they were. Maybe with some coloring on the decorative portions. Now here in this building, which would have been a temple of sorts, you can see post holes, and here are the remnants of wooden posts, also trees. I'm guessing that some of this must be restored, because I'm not sure that the early Thais marked their bricks like this. Notice here cat paws or small dog paws or animal paws in the brick. Okay, we're at the river where they've built a modern breakwater. Whether this will become shops and a dock and so forth, I'm guessing it will, since that'll be an easy way for the tourists to get here on boat tours, which is an easy way, particularly in the future, to funnel huge numbers of people through here with relatively little impact. Now I'll just kind of pan around. Now imagine this large building space in front of us would have been a tall temple of some sort, or, you know, a meeting place, or where the initiations and so forth were given. And it looks like the design here is 4 of these huge Chedais, one at each corner inside this complex, which probably would have been individual Chedais, but smaller than any of the others. Another temple there on a large platform, so it would have been a very important place. And then notice the core where the main Chedai is, or prang is really what it is. It's a Khmer style tower. That's surrounded by 4 very large Chedai or prang, and then several smaller ones interior to that, and larger ones, slightly larger to the side there. It's clear from this perspective that this was a large temple on its own large platform, and there the remaining Buddha cloaked in current fabric. It's interesting to imagine what this would have looked like when it was surrounded by jungle, whatever jungle means here. It's interesting, this is designed to pull all this up, so maybe it's part of a sewer system or some sort. Okay, imagine for a moment you're back in the 1600s or 1700s when this was built, and it was brand new and shining and white, and you've just arrived off of the river as part of the royal escort, if you will. And this is what your view is. I'll go off to the side and then pan around quietly. Now here you see the remnant of a spire, so extrapolate that to the rest. Obviously the temple would have obstructed the Chedai from this view, but the temple itself would have been rather grand looking and imposing. And had the door been open in the temple, we might just well have been able to see inside enough to see the Buddha. Although if we were part of the royal contingent, we were en route to the Buddha. And since they request we don't walk on the monuments, I'll just use the telephoto to take a closer look. It's interesting to wonder if the Buddha would have been gilded at that time. My guess is it would have been. It's interesting to wonder who would have had access to the Chedai for praying. Was it open to all on occasions, or just the royalty, or just the royal family? I think it's something like 35 meters tall. I want to focus on the detail in the front of this Chedai in the front. And also notice that it has supporting wood supports coming out to indicate some kind of a roofing structure, whether this was in fact a roof or whether it was simulated the snake heads, cobra heads covering a Buddha. I don't know. See if we can see any of the detail here. A little bit. Now I'm looking at the detail on the front of the Chedai to the left, and it's interesting. It's portraying some kind of structure. That probably being the Buddha, perhaps several Buddhas. Here I'm standing in front of the main Chedai, and here you can see headless Buddha. Why they're headless, I don't know, except that's the most vulnerable part of these statues, I suspect. Not only to looters, but just to time. While it says don't climb on the monuments, apparently you can, so I will. And look at those three angles that you see up there, angular surfaces. Looks like two of them may be similar to those double rocks that we've seen, at carved rock that we've seen at some of the sites. Okay, I'm inside looking at the Buddha here. I'm sure all this was not original. I mean, the walls were where the space was. How similar it is to the temple at Khao I climbed up. Here's some, I think, are bats up there, whose day I am disturbing, but not the first time, I'm sure. And I'll do a slow pan. And then I'm going to do a pan down the stairs so you can see how steep it is. Now, unlike the Inca, in which there were huge throngs of people, to my knowledge, on the squares, other than from kingly celebrations, I don't think that was how this temple was used. Anyway, there's how steep it is. There's some prettily carved detail that remains, and some people to give perspective. And if you'll notice, the Buddhas sweep all the way around the perimeter of this inner wall of the Chedai. All headless, apparently. I wonder if that would have been covered. It seems that it would be based on the pillar's existence. It's a lovely morning today. It's about 8:30, almost 9 o'clock. Kind of cool, a little bit of a breeze as you can see in the tree. A little bit of a toppling going on in the Chedai across the way. I wonder if these stairways were shaped like serpents. I mean the banisters or railings. And I'm sure inside of each of these, I think are 3 to a side, is another Buddha. Now notice here that there's a spike sticking out of the top. Perhaps that's part of the design, of the way that the head was designed. Or maybe it supported some sculpturing above it. A little bit of carving, or detail rather, left in the platform for the Buddha. And here in the corner Chedai, double Buddhas facing each direction. And here we get a little sense of the cornice detail. Is that European? Here's some structural supports for the arch. Whether they're original or not, I don't know. It's seen on the one in the middle, but not the one at the far end. Here, the smaller of the three sizes with still a considerable amount of plaster on, so you get an idea. I think this is the Khmer design as opposed to the smoother design that we've seen elsewhere, at least in Bangkok. And a little remnant of wall detail, but you can see how simple brick can transform into the illusion of something more. Here what probably was one of the entry gates, at least to this main platform for the main Chedai, and the walkway or causeway to it. Here you can see the effect of soil subsidence on any structure, but even more so on this. All along the river are wat complexes, or things that look like that. Probably because it's such an ideal place to build them. This is where we are now, Phu Khao Thong. And apparently we can clamber up the 79 steps. This was built by the Khmer, or the Burmese rather, excuse me, during a 15-year occupation. And it was a structure not destroyed by the Burmese because of course they built it. There's some interesting detail at the bottom of the railing here. It almost looks like a Buddha, a figurative Buddha, looking up at the sky, and perhaps that's what it is. Now, whether the area in the back and these structures are Thai or Burmese, I don't know. Of course, there's a Buddha or two. Here, a little bit simpler detail. Whether it's because it's no longer painted, it's worn off, or wasn't painted, I don't know. All about are these colorful cocks, and there are large and small and medium-sized statues of these as you enter. And this is because the king believed at one time they came to his defense, and as a consequence he shows appropriate reverence to them. Much simpler compound, it appears. Several Chedai forming a rectangular area. I'm not sure if this is just a meeting building in the back or not, but it looks something like that. It's outside the wall limits of this compound, though. Here, a relatively small rectangular building, a hall of image it's called, for whatever the reason. The main entrance faces to the east, in other words, behind me. Most, of course, interesting is the smiling, happy Buddha. Notice that he appears to have an apple, or at least a sphere, in his hand. And the statue we're looking at the back of, it was King Narasan, or all-conquering. Aren't they all, if they win? Okay, I'm now deep inside the Chedai. At the top, there is ventilation here, but not much. Bit of a view so we can see what the angles and so forth look like about halfway up. This guy's going to be very acrobatic. I'm out at the elephant corral now, and I've just started. Just got something to drink. This little fella came up and introduced himself, but now he's more interested in rubbing himself an itch, I suspect. She gives him a prod with a little stick and sends him over to his mother again. Cute little guy, but he outweighs me. Not only in weight, but in power. Says, well, if I can't push you around, I'll push around that statue there. Or maybe knock around some logs here, but I'm going to do something fun. Take this swing and knock it around a little bit. That sounds like fun. He wants to get up inside of it. Looks cute, and he's now inside of it. Maybe he remembers the day when he was smaller. I'm going to sit down, that seems appropriate. And he probably used to lie down in that thing. He's a little frustrated, I think, that it just isn't accommodating anymore. Well, let's keep trying to see why it doesn't work. Must be something defective about the chair itself, he thinks. Maybe I can readjust this log somehow like a cushion. Don't know what a cushion is, but I got the idea. Well, try it again. I'm sure there's a way I can make this work. Okay, if I stand up in it, move around a little bit, stick my feet around this right spot here. Maybe I can get my head around here, get sideways. There we go. And now it's not. Now it's making sense. No, it's not either. Darn it. Huh. Something's either too big or too small. I can't figure out which it is yet. Now maybe I can chew it up a little bit, intimidate it. Maybe it'll wise up and give me some access. Nope, that's not working either. Mom's chained up over there, so maybe it was intended to keep the little one with her, but that's not working very well, and she has no control and looks a little bit frustrated. But I suspect that metal shed ensconced in cement is probably adequate to hold her frustration at this point. Here he's got a little friend, which may be his lifetime handler. I think since Mom has seen the little handler, she's a little more comfortable that things are the way they're supposed to be. But maybe not. Now we're looking at the perimeter of a corral, and we'll walk in here further where some other Europeans have gone and see a little bit more. The little one went running over to his mom, but I'm not sure if it was because of this backhoe or not. This looks like the bathing and nursery area. how the mom's enjoying the water. I guess the little one's trying to get some pleasure out of it. Wondering why mom's going through all the gyrations. Like any infant, he's got to experiment, got to test things out, find out what happens when he does certain things. But it always amazes me that our teachers are amazed kids fool around. What do you think they're going to do? They're kids, they're supposed to. Their problem is to learn how to channel it. Look at the little one safe underneath mom. I'm sucking down some water there. This yearling or whatever it is, that size, butted the other one out of the way because it was getting too close to its mother. There's a nice new building being constructed. Probably some kind of tourist facility, whether it'll be a restaurant or housing or both, don't know. Some elephant memorabilia. And now I'll begin the long trek back. Just for the record, I need to relate the story of my my Samilar driver who was very ignorant of this area, and it's not a big area. I mean, it's smaller than the town area of Jackson. And with all due deference and respect, I think he's literally stupid. But I and several others discussed where I wanted to go, and he was the guy next in line, so he's the one that got to go. And I showed them my map, which clearly had 3 places marked out in big Pentel pen circles, numbered 1, 2, and 3, arrows pointing from 1 to 2 to 3. Everybody presumably agreed they knew where I was going. He immediately took off in the wrong direction to where I had been yesterday, which is just a short way away south of where we were on the island, as opposed to all the way to the west, which is where I was going. Then when he finally figured out he was wrong, then he went back up north along the longest possible route, stopped and got something for himself to drink, and finally wrapped around and came back to where I was going. By then he'd chewed up a half an hour of what should have taken at most 15 minutes to do. It's no biggie, I don't really care. I'm just illustrating it. After the second place, I was going to the Elephant Kraal, which is what you've just seen. And it's a large complex up in the northeast, off the island, from both the first and second places that I was going. Instead, he takes me onto the island to a little place where tourists go to ride elephants. And I knew he was going the wrong way, and he said, no, that's right. And when he got there, I said, no, you are wrong. And finally he got a hold of somebody who figured out, oh yeah, that's where I was going. Even with his own map, he didn't know. There's nothing else up here significant on his map, his tourist map. As there are shrines everywhere, here's another one with lots of elephant memorabilia and little statues. Okay, now we're talking. Here's an actual elephant corral here. And this, we're on a platform with probably festivities, and when there's a celebration there'll be lots of food vendors and so forth. And then the viewing stands here up on top. And then if you're royalty, you get to stand in this area here. So here what we have is, first of all, a very thick walled enclosure that presumably you can walk around. And then the traditional kraal, or corral, of log wood like we saw. And there's the center one that has the little shrine in it. And here you can see an exit chute. And over here another chute. Now notice that this one has those logs in the center there, and that may be like a cow chute to trap and hold the elephant before you let it in or let it out. I'm glad I saw this because there wasn't any sign indicating that this was here. I imagine there can be some rather festive experiences here, but I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any market for elephants today. More likely are places like this that are elephant-friendly facilities for taking abandoned elephants or ones that have been hurt and that sort of thing. Well, these posts don't look like they do what I was thinking. I'm pretty sure they do, whether they're moved out in the bottom or on the top. Here it would look like it'd have to be the top. You'll notice that they're slotted, so there'd be some way of pulling them forward, pulling them back. So now you're getting a little view from the elephant. View. Here's a real-size display of how the elephants would have been used in battle. So these are Burmese war elephants with all the regalia, and apparently the soldiers are outfitted in different ways. Now notice how this platform is held on with this metal, probably leather, but otherwise metal clasp right there. Now if I did that with a horse, which I unfortunately without trying did, I'd get backed off, which I did on the Oregon Trail. Interesting, added to this park are some exercise devices here.